Hey guys, it's Holly. So today I wanted to talk about storage again because recently my order from Wicked Brick finally arrived. Now there's sort of a fun story behind this. I was just scrolling on Instagram one day and I saw an ad from them, and basically the main thing that attracted me to them was these like acrylic panels for an IKEA Kallax unit. So for those of you guys who don't know, they're sort of those like square units from IKEA. You've probably seen them around. I've got one next to my desk and I've actually had quite a lot of Lego displays, and it's something I've been looking for a really long time, was an acrylic panel so that I didn't have to dust. And IKEA doesn't actually make them for this unit, which is just the wildest thing because I feel like IKEA has everything. And I had never heard of this company before. I clicked on the ad and I had a look around the website and I found that they had storage solutions specifically for this unit, as well as a bunch of sort of spaceship stands, acrylic display cases, things that are specifically tailored as well for specific sets. You had BrickHead's little containers as well, even things for like Funko Pops, which I thought was really cool. And I just had a look around the website and there were so many things that I really wanted, but the price of shipping was a lot. However, because they had things specifically for this IKEA unit, I gave in. I also thought it would be really cool to try it out. I watched a bunch of other people's reviews as well before placing this order, because of the fact that shipping for me was 67 Australian dollars, and it was all done via DHL, so it was express, and I knew it would get here really quickly, so I understand why it was expensive. But I wish that there was a slightly more budget version, because I could literally buy an acrylic display case for the Marvel CMF series that houses all 12 figures for less than I paid for shipping. So there's that. So pre-warning, as this company is from the UK, so quite a lot of you guys will probably have to pay quite a lot for shipping. So this stuff arrived earlier this week and I pieced it all together. It all came individually wrapped in these like brown cardboard containers to protect everything. Everything as well did have like this white protective film on it, which I had to peel off and assemble everything. And the whole process was very simple. And I'm a sucker for storage and organization, so this was a lot of fun for me. So what I ended up getting was the minifigure display podium for the Kallax unit, which can hold 80 figures. And at the time actually that I'm filming this, I went back and checked, and the price, at least for me, which I feel like is mainly due to exchange rates, has actually gone up by $15, which I'm really glad I ordered this when I did. Then I got two of the spaceship stands. Both of them are the medium sized. One of them is tiered and one of them is regular, as well as a two-piece sort of minifigure display base that just sort of is placed on the front of them there. Then as well, I ordered two of the panels, which I haven't yet put on my unit. I'm planning to sort of work through that this weekend, so I'll show you how that process goes in another video, and that's the whole reason I really placed the order in the first place. So my plan in order of buying these, firstly, I got the stands because I thought they'd be really handy for reviews to actually perch up like spaceships and things like that, like any Star Wars ships. And then after placing the order, I actually got the Milano and the Eternal ship, and I just think they look really sick like that. However, they are a lot shorter than I thought, which I'll go into later. But the minifigure podium was the thing I'm most excited for, because I wanted to put all of my Marvel figures onto it, or at least as many as I sort of had, and go through all of the movies and have them grouped up and really put them on a proper display, because they'd sort of just been sitting on the bottom of my shelf, and then every time I'd knock one figure over, it would create a domino effect and then everyone would fall over. I used to have a Spider-Man Funko like blue tacked to like the top of the cabinet, and that actually fell down the other night and scared me, and I woke up and ran out of bed and I saw that he'd knocked over Wanda and Vision and a bunch of other characters, and I felt really bad. Now when it comes to the spaceship stands, this is something that I've really wanted for a very long time. I know that iDisplay also does these types of things, but again, the shipping was a lot. So I thought I would get them from Wicked Brick since I was doing an additional order, and these are really nicely built. I really like sort of all the acrylic lasering. I love the shiny sort of black finish. I think it looks really good up against my black cabinet, and I've just sort of left the little vinyl protection on the bottom because I feel like I don't need it with a black bottom. It's not like you can see it, and it just protects the base a tiny bit more. Now for the angled one, I actually put the Milano on it, which there is a specific sort of stand for this one, which are all custom sort of made to the ships. However, I just thought I'd stick this one on. The ship is quite light, which is really good because I don't know how much weight these stands would be able to hold, especially at an angle, but I did have to modify it slightly, sort of taking off the bottom of the ship, but it was really simple, and all four of the studs just attached to the bottom like that. I tried to put it near the front just to get the weight of the ship right, but but luckily because it is really small, it works quite well. I'm just shocked at how short the medium is. I thought the smalls were gonna be sort of perfect, and I was sort of tempted to get the large, but I didn't know how big it would be. There wasn't really sort of a size comparison or type of thing from memory, at least when I ordered, in terms of like a picture. So I just thought I'd get the medium as a safe choice, but I unboxed it and it just felt really short to me. I mean, it's fine for the Milano, but I personally would have liked it to be a tiny bit higher, just because the shelf I have it on has quite a lot of clearance. To go along with just the generic stands as well, Wicked Brick do sell these minifigure bases in a variety of different figures. You can get one for one figure. I personally got the one for two figures because I thought that was sort of an even amount. You can get ones for 3, 4, 5, 6. They all sort of just expand in width and length, and they don't actually just snap on. They sort of just place and fit into that hexagonal shape of the actual ship base, which is all right, but it'd be really cool, I guess, if there was some sort of like magnets that it properly attaches and doesn't really slide around. But it was really cheap, so I don't mind, and I feel like this is going to be really helpful for me with reviews, which at the end of the day is the reason that I bought these Spaceship stands. Next up, we have the vertical one, which I'm not too sure about. I think it looks really good for the Eternal ship in particular, but I personally probably wouldn't go for one unless it's like a giant ship. I really wouldn't go for the vertical one, but there's just something about this stand that doesn't feel all that secure. I don't know if it's just because the acrylic doesn't fit in as tightly or if it's the studs. I sort of had to flip this ship upside down, and at some points it didn't feel like the studs were far enough apart. I don't know if that's a sort of a laser cutting error or a production error, but this one just doesn't feel as secure. Like the acrylic doesn't seem like it was cut quite as tightly. If I rotate it around, maybe it will be sort of slightly better. Yeah, not really. Because these are all handmade, they're all laser cut. I just feel like it was slightly a bit off, but at the end of the day, if I'm gonna put it on a shelf, I'm not really gonna touch or interact with it. I guess though, if you've got younger kids or your collection doesn't have glass doors like I do, or you know, you're all grown adults and things like that, it could be a bit of an issue because maybe a kid could knock it and the ship could fall. That's just something to keep in mind. Otherwise, the stand itself is pretty cool, and I actually prefer this height for this particular ship, but I feel like for the angled ones, just the large would have been so much better just because of the ship. And I also like the angles just because it looks a lot more dynamic to me. I don't think I would go buying too many of these vertical ones myself in the future. Maybe one in the large and that's about it. I just think for sort of my personal display taste, I like the angled ones. It looks a lot more interesting. It actually looks like the ships are flying through space. So next up is the acrylic display podium thing, and at first I honestly wasn't too excited for this. I was more excited for the Spaceship stands and the actual acrylic glass covers, but sort of as I kept waiting for my order to arrive, I got more and more excited for this podium, and I think it has to be my favorite thing that I purchased out of this order. I absolutely love it, and I regret not getting another one. So in total, the podium can fit 80 different figures on it, and each of the little levels both have little studs for the figures to stand on, and 5 of them face sort of the left and 5 of them face the right, so they're all sort of centered in on each other, and it's so nice. Before, I'd usually display my minifigures just sort of in a display, in a set, or I've done a lot of minifigure frames, which is another technique I really enjoy, but this is definitely a more pricey and expensive setup, but it also doesn't need to be hung on a wall, which I really like. Now this model in particular, the whole reason I bought it is because it fits perfectly inside of the little Kallax cubes. Now, admittedly, when I was putting this together, the base of it slots in really nice, but there's some of the little platforms, as each of these can sort of been taken off individually, that were a bit too long, so they can fit inside the cube, but I feel like instead of actually sitting on the base, it's really just resting in between the walls and sort of using that sort of pressure point in order to hold itself up, which is weird, but it's all right. At least I can get it in. If I couldn't get it into the cube, I feel like I'd have a bit of a bigger problem. Now, for me personally, the whole reason I bought this podium was just to display a bunch of figures. At first, I was planning on displaying both Marvel and DC until I realized I have far too many Marvel figures to be able to fit all of my DC on there as well. So I've just gone for Marvel in general and made an entire Marvel display. And honestly, one of my favorite parts is that you can fit all of the Eternals in one row, since there is 10 of them and these rows are 10 wide. There's also quite a considerable gap between the top shelf of this podium and the actual top of the shelf, which means if you really wanted to, you could stick some of the big figs in there. I've been having Thanos and the Hulk just at the front, and I've also got a few gaps left over for me to upgrade and sort of put new figures in. But the fact that I've been able to fill it with Marvel figures is honestly quite concerning, and I do wish that I got another one to put a lot of my Harry Potter figures on there. I definitely think I would have far too many for them all to fit in one of these display stands, but I think it would be really good to sort of have a lot of the students or like the movie specific outfits, like sort of all the Yule Ball outfits, or even just all of the professors, I think this would look incredible on something like this. The only sacrifice with this though is that you lose a lot of sort of the space underneath. There is a lot of empty space in the center that you then can't use, but at the same time I like having the minifigures tiered because it means I can see all of them. Now when putting this thing together as well, there is no support in the middle of the stand, so if you push down on sort of the little levels, it will dip slightly. So what I personally did is I took each row out and then placed all of the figures on first and then slotted it into the stand. Now, as much as I love this thing, I cannot stand the price of it. The fact that right now, if I log on to Wicked Brick's website, it's almost going to cost me $100 for this thing. At the time of purchase, it was around $75 for me, which I was still a lot, but it was a lot more easy to stomach at that price. Edging up to $100, it's starting to look a tiny bit ridiculous. So as much as I really want to get another one of these display podiums, I don't think I'm going to just yet. I'm thinking I might order one when I go to visit my family in the UK. That way shipping is a lot cheaper and I also don't have to worry about the exchange rate. But at the end of the day, it all depends about your collection, your budget, and how you like to display things. So that's all of the stuff I got from Wicked Brick and basically the start of my Marvel display. I really just want to design all of the sets and properly organize everything now. It's really nice to have sort of all of the figures up there, and I imagine it will sort of chop and change as things go on. And then of course I want to put the acrylic panels on the front of it so there's a lot less dust getting in. I might put some MDF on the back of the cabinet too to completely keep the dust out, but I guess we'll see what happens. But let me know what you guys think about this stuff. Is it something you would consider for your own collection, or am I just being really extravagant? And if you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel down below. And until next time, I'll see you later.